I'm Dan, and this is 10,000 Hours of Indie, a podcast exploring new music and delving deeper into what goes on in the background of the independent music industry. I'm a musician and passionate music lover, and I wanted to delve deeper into new music in the independent scene around the world. I also saw this as a chance to help artists connect and share their stories, so if there's someone you hear and you want to find out more about, every podcast has links in the show description. Get involved, help this community grow, follow on the 10,000 Hours of Indie socials, you can find all the links in the show description. And also feel free to email me about anything music related, 10,000indie@gmail.com. I'm open to any ideas and love listening to your promos. Greg Weeks is an American singer-songwriter, multi-instrumentalist and producer based in Philadelphia, known as a leading figure in the psychedelic folk scene. His work is a blend of folk, acoustic and experimental, often featuring intricate acoustic guitar and at times chamber pop arrangements with cello and mellotron. Aside from his solo work, he is also known for his work with the bands Espers, the Valerie Project and Grass. January the 23rd saw the release of his latest solo album, If the Sun Dies, a beautiful and moving 11 tracks released on his own label, Language of Stone. Greg, welcome to the 10,000 Hours of Indie podcast.
Thanks very much for having me.
So let's start with your influences. I can hear an obvious folk and prog vibe running through your tunes, but is that what you listen to as well?
Most definitely. Yeah, it's interesting because when you trace your life, you've got like these periods of time where you're into a certain type of music and there are certain albums that are really huge. And if you asked me what my influences were, I guess I'd mention bands that are more folky and proggy now. But if I was to go back in time, the influences would be a little bit more perplexing, I think.
Do you want to give us some examples?
Like Adamant's Friend or Foe. That was like one of the albums that I was like into the most when I was a kid, and I still think that album holds up. Then you've got like Slint, Spiderland. That was a huge album for me. The Polvo records, the first couple of Polvo records, which kind of bridged the gap between like indie rock and progressive rock. They kind of got me to appreciate more of the Italian prog stuff that I got into later and the psychedelic folk stuff.
Interesting that you mentioned Adam Ant, because the first album I ever bought on vinyl was Adam and the Ants, Kings of the Wild Frontiers.
Really? Wow. And you still have it, right?
Absolutely, yes. I'm not getting rid of that. So from what I can find online, this is your first album after a 17-year break. Was it a life-enforced break, or what caused that?
Yeah, it was a weird time. Like, Espers had kind of, like, run its course for the time. I'm working on new songs, and so is Meg, and trying to get other people in the band back into the swing of things. So that's something coming along, I think. But yeah, Espers had kind of run its course for the time, and the financial crisis hit, and so it was really hard to tour and make money. And then on top of that, illegal downloading was like cresting. So it just was not the best time musically to make money. And on top of that, I had a recording console that like kind of was a lemon. And I was stuck not being able to do things in the workflow that I had been used to doing it. And then we decided to have our first child. So all those things combined together to create a situation where I was like, I think I need to step away from music for a little bit. It was a little bit traumatizing, everything that was going on, besides the child part. And so I kind of had to like keep it at arm's distance for a very long time. But then I just got the creative bug again, started thinking about putting a studio together. We made that happen. And now I'm going full bore.
Now you're doing several projects at once again.
Yeah, I've got like 4 or 5 projects happening at once right now.
Are you an all or nothing kind of guy in that respect?
I suppose when it comes to music, I am, yeah. Because it was like I didn't touch a guitar during that period of time. Like every once in a while I'd pick it up and try to do something, and it just did not feel right. So it was all that time with barely even touching a guitar, and then boom, now I'm writing a double album for my next release. So,
but I guess you've got 17 years of life experience to get out now.
I guess so. I'm not sure if I believe that I'm like making up for lost time or if I'm just like really keyed into the creative moment.
There have been a couple of great reviews of this new album that I've found so far. How much do you look at your own press?
I look at it because, well, I've hired a press company, so I have to kind of keep on top to make sure that the expenditure is worthwhile. I like to look at the reviews to see if anyone's actually writing the reviews or if it's just an AI bot, because there is a lot of that happening. I find them very humorous, but sad at the same time. So it's nice when someone actually gets the record and writes something with like depth and perspective. I don't care if it's positive or negative. I just want to make sure that the person took their time to actually listen to it.
So there are some albums that feel more like composition than songs, and this is certainly one of them for me. Is that how you go about writing? Do you feel like a composer or a songwriter?
I mean, I feel like a songwriter, but cohesion is like a big thing for me, which is why I favor the album format, is because when I put something together, I expect it to be able to be listened to front to back and you to have an experience with it. And so that it's unified, it's cohesive, it makes sense with itself. So it's an experiential thing that I'm going for when I'm thinking about putting a record together.
This feels to me like quite a nostalgic album. Is that what you were going for with this?
No, not at all. I just like my instruments, and I mean, I like the sounds of the 70s. I like the way drums sounded in the 70s. I like the way that the mellotron sounds, which is a very like time-specific instrument, and the mini Moogs and the Univox K2 that I have. They just kind of impart it with a vintage sound. And then the mastering engineer for the vinyl, he has a Neumann lathe cut that also makes it basically sound as if it's for the 70s. So it's like whatever you give him, it's going to come out sounding that way anyways because of the technology limits. And I appreciate those limits. I embrace those limits. I like enforcing those kinds of limits on what I'm doing.
Do you record analog or digitally?
Analog.
You are a proper analog old school guy.
Yep, I've got a 2-inch tape machine and an old recording console from the 70s, and everything goes to tape. And I've just gotten it set up with the help of my mix engineer, Brian McTeer and Amy Morrissey. Just got it set up so that I can dump tape to digital and then import tracks from digital back to tape, which is tough because you need to have time code involved in order, because the tape machine isn't perfect. It like slows and speeds up incrementally. I'm working on a project now where I have guest singers singing on tracks. So I'm sending them the tracks and they're going to be recording their voices, and then I dump those back onto tape until I'm ready, and then we mix them.
Nice. Was there a particular trigger for the themes in this album?
No, stuff just comes to me. Like, I can sit down and go, all right, I'm going to write a song that's like this and has this perspective and is about this. And then the song says, nope, it's going to be about this and it's going to sound like this.
Do you write a song all in one go, or do you take your time over it and sort of put it to one side and come back? And
it happens really fast for the most part. Sometimes I have to belabor the lyrics a little bit, but ultimately it happens very quickly.
And what comes first? Are you a lyrics man or are you a music guy first?
Music always. And very rarely do I write something that comes in my head. Like, I usually am hunting around on the guitar and it sparks something interesting, and then my head kind of becomes involved. There's one track on the next record that I wrote in my head and came home and transposed or transcribed onto a guitar. But that's very unusual for me.
So, what was the most difficult song to realise while writing and recording it on this album?
I don't think any one song was any more or less difficult to record or to write, to compose, anything like that. They all came fairly quickly, and in recording, I went through the same process for all of them. There wasn't one where I was like, I just can't get this sound. I don't understand what guitar part or keyboard part should go here. No, it's all very like intuitive, and I think if you have to force it, then you're probably doing something wrong. At least that's, in my book, happening with me.
And after 17 years, what's changed in the way you do things? Was it just like putting old slippers on and everything was normal, or did you have to learn some new stuff? What have you changed?
No, besides the digital component, it's like finding your old slippers, sliding into them, and going, okay, we're just going to start walking around like this as if we never stop.
So the cover art by Robert Beattie is amazing and quite a departure from your previous solo covers. What's the story behind the album cover?
Well, I was able to actually pay somebody to do the album art, for one thing. The only other time I had been able to really do that was with Emiliano's artwork for The Hive, which is currently out of print right now. I'll be rectifying that soon enough, but it's nice having a little bit of money to be able to pay someone to actually take their time and fully realize their vision. But that cover art, it's funny, I didn't find out that he was like a real significant visual artist in musical terms until after the fact. I had seen a Roland Powers album that he had done and thought it was perfect. I was like, wow, that's so Nick Drake Pink Moon. And I was like, I need to just contact this guy and see if he's interested in working on my stuff. And I did, and he was. And it wasn't until after the fact that I had realized that he had done so much stuff. It had just clicked with me visually from that one example of his work that I had seen.
Yeah, no, for me, it's very sort of 1970s prog when I look at it. Sort of the Canterbury scene prog, maybe.
Oh, man. I mean, Caravan, that if I could do it again, I'd do it all over you. That's like one of my favorite all-time records.
Ah, you see, I prefer In the Land of Grey and Pink, personally.
That's a great one. That's a great one.
Is it only the drums that you got somebody else to do on this album, or did somebody else come in for other bits as well?
I've had other people do like certain keyboard parts, but mostly, especially on the solo stuff, it's mostly me. I can't play a keyboard really, but I can do it rudimentarily enough, especially for a mellotron and a Moog, monophonic and like a really simplistic kind of like polyphonic keyboard. Sometimes when I want something really more complicated, like on the Hammond, I'll like ask somebody like my wife Jess to come in and do it, just to relieve me from the pressure of having to like get it right for a whole take.
You consider your main instrument to be guitar then, I assume?
Yeah, guitar.
And is that how you write everything? It comes on the guitar and vocals?
Yeah, except for Awake Like Sleep, I trash picked one of those chord organs that like you turn on and it blows the air through it. It's almost like a harmonium, but it's like a child's harmonium, and it has the buttons on one side and some keys on the other. And I wrote almost all those songs using the buttons on that chord organ. And so that's why that record sounds so different from my other records, I think. And I've thought about like going back to that, but right now I'm just having a lot of fun writing stuff on guitar. So, okay,
favorite song on the album?
Yeah, I don't know if I have a favorite song. What's your favorite song on the album?
I'm glad you asked.
Have one?
I do. Yes, it's "Dream You Awake," and I'll tell you why. It's because it has a very Canterbury scene vibe and strings, and I love strings. And it's also having this, what I would almost call a doom prog riff, where It runs through as well. I think it's a magnificent song. It's got a little bit of everything from the whole album in one song.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, I do really love that song for sure. And I love the idea of like using that kind of like lyrical imagery too, like Awake Like Sleep, Dream You Awake, just like these kinds of like strange turns of phrase, which of course the Canterbury artists were very into.
That's probably why I got the Canterbury vibe, alongside the music as well, though, because it does have that sort of the way a Canterbury scene song flows, and sort of has little bits of what you're not expecting in it, I think.
Right, yeah, that's high praise, I'd say. High praise indeed, thank you.
On to social media. You seem to not be a massive fan of social media. You're only on Instagram, from what I can see.
I don't post a lot because I'm Gen X, and Gen X is like, we like to just kind of drift into the background, and we're not all about being flashy and out there. And I just can't get into that mindset where it's like thinking that people want to see stuff from me every day. I don't want to see stuff from other people every day. I sit there and I think, where do you find the time to like do all this stuff and put it out there on a daily basis? Aren't you living your life? So that's kind of like the way that I feel. Not to put anybody down who's like deep into the social media stuff, and it's really important when it comes to like promoting yourself, but it's just not my thing, and I'm trying.
Well, let me quote you while you're on that bit, because I did scroll through your social media in preparation, obviously, and you have a quote: "Put down your phone and go and read a book."
That's true, yeah, or listen to a record.
Is reading something that often inspires a song in your mind?
Yes, especially for the album Magus, which is going to be the next release that comes out on Language of Stone. You'll probably be getting promo materials for it soon. There were a couple of folk horror books that I read that like really influenced the lyrics on a couple of tracks. Reading definitely gives me inspiration. Like with Espers, the song Bis and Abyss came from a book, and the name Espers comes from a book that I was reading at the time about cults. Definitely, that's one way in which you can really like broaden your horizons and stimulate your creativity, is just to read or engage in media in general, like movies, high quality media. Yeah, I don't think I'd be inspired by YouTube videos.
Although a lot of the old films, 50s and backwards, are on YouTube nowadays, so there is some good stuff there.
That's true. Yeah, no, you can definitely find amazing stuff. I mean, I watch YouTube for like Beat Club videos and all that stuff that was happening in Europe during the 70s on television. Oh, that stuff is amazing. Or like BBC documentaries on Mike Oldfield or something like that. That's great. Yeah. If the video starts with, "Hey guys," then no, that's not going to be inspirational for me at all.
So also on your Instagram, there's a picture of some old interview tapes you made back in the analog days, and you mentioned that you chatted with Royal Trucks for one of them, a band I absolutely love. How was that experience? As they're a band with quite a wild touring reputation, at least.
Oh my gosh, it was great. Like, I invited them over to my place in New York for a vegetarian dinner, and they opted to do that versus like some typical kind of interview at the club. They came over, we hung out, they looked through my record collection a little bit, we talked about stuff, we had a really good interview, and they were like perfectly kind and totally reasonable, normal people when we were talking. I didn't know what to expect from them necessarily, because you're right, the reputation precedes them. But, you know, I think most musicians are fairly normal people when it comes down to it, with just like a slight adjustment to how the brain works.
Because for anyone listening to this who doesn't know who Royal Trucks are, when I was introduced to Royal Trucks, I was told a story about one of their tours where they started the tour with a massive rig going across probably the US. Mm-hmm. And by the end of the tour, they had 2 strings left on a guitar and they were playing acoustically because they'd sold everything for drugs during the tour.
Wow.
I don't know how true that is. I don't want to get done for slander here, but I think it's, even if it's not real, what a fantastic story.
Yeah, that is a great story. I mean, they were suave. They got their advance from the major label. It was totally like they were scamming the scammers. They used it to build an analog studio for themselves so that they had free and total autonomy. They're smart folks, for sure.
The radio video EP is just 5 tracks of perfection for me.
That's a good one, yeah.
So there's an animated video for As the Sun Dies on YouTube. How much input did you have in the making of that?
The Cal Arts student who did that video did it because he asked me to score his initial first-year project, which I did, happily. He's extraordinarily talented and said, "I'll be happy to make you a video if you want." And I was like, of course. And with all the artists that I work with for covers or whatever, I just say, listen to the music and see what inspires you and go from there. So I generally like it if I don't micromanage what other people are doing. I'll get in there and if I have a vision, I'll say, okay, this is great. Let's just add a little of this. Like I'm working with Jess Rotter right now on the cover art for the next record. And she did this amazing portrait of me, but I wanted it to be a little bit weirder. So I started showing her pictures of like Peter Gabriel's Face Melt album. So she's got these colors that are coming off of my face and going into like the ether, and it's just looking phenomenal. So I like that kind of like back and forth. I want the artist to do what they feel comfortable doing, and then if I have other things that I'm interested in getting out of it, I'll like throw ideas and we'll see what they come up with. I wasn't expecting it to look like what it looks like right now, but it's great. So I think it's those unexpected results that like make life interesting. But I will say that every part of it is exciting as the next. So, like, I really get into the idea of, like, figuring out, okay, who am I going to approach for the artwork for this? What's that going to be like? And I'm, like, very hands-on to a degree. But again, I'm picking the person, just like if you're a filmmaker, you need to surround yourself with incredibly talented people who are good at their job. And they are all unified behind you, so there's a cohesion there. But at the same time, you're giving them the benefit of the doubt. You're saying, okay, go ahead. I trust you. Go ahead and realize your vision. Your vision of my vision.
I also found a video for the song Made on YouTube from 17 years ago. That was a weird one.
Is it the one with the big hand?
Yeah, and all black and white. And the drips of ink and things.
That had nothing to do with me. That was just a fan video, yeah. There's a couple people who have used my music to make fan videos. That song was actually used in an Add-A-Color campaign by this visual artist called Charlie White. And so there is a video that goes along with it. It's not the full length of the song, but it's a crazy video where this girl is in her bedroom and there's a seashell with this like pink ooze coming out of it and everything is pink. And you should definitely try and find that one on the internet because that's a crazy video that he made thinking of the song. Like I want that song to be the soundtrack of this video that I'm going to do for Adidas.
Okay. So on to live. What is your plan? Are you going to play some live shows to accompany this album, or is this purely a studio project?
I feel like for the solo stuff, I need a full band, and it's almost impossible to get a full band. I mean, my drummer lives in Paris, so like I can get him over here and we do tracking. We just tracked drums for about four and a half albums while he was over here for 2 weeks.
Wow.
But like he's over there and I'm in the middle of the woods. Like I'm outside of Philadelphia, so I live in the woods, and there's just not a lot of people around here that I can call on and say, hey, let's rehearse and play these shows for almost no money. And, you know, how do you tour? I'm a dad with a full-time job, so I don't think we'll be touring behind the record. And for Magus, it's possible. It's possible. I might do some like duo or trio song shows with that, but I don't know.
But we're not going to see you outside of America, are we?
I don't know. I mean, I really do need to figure out some way to get my albums released in Europe because the import costs are ridiculous.
So is it a while since you've played live shows as well? If you've had this 17-year break, I assume you haven't played either.
No, Marissa Nadler actually asked me to open for her about a year ago, and so I called on my friend Jesse and my wife, and we played mostly as a duo, but as a trio on certain songs, and that was really nice. Again, he's super busy, so like I can't really, in good faith, call on him, you know, and expect him to drop everything to come play with me. So it hasn't been too long, and it was great. It's just the logistics of it all.
Would you prefer to play live more often?
I don't know. I mean, when you play live, it's great, but there's a lot of pressure, too. I think if you get used to doing live shows, then that pressure goes away, and it's just fun. All the rehearsing just to play like 1 or 2 gigs, those gigs are a little bit stressful. I guess I have kind of a love-hate relationship with like playing live. I'm so in my head that sometimes I'll be playing and I'll be like, I can't believe my fingers actually have to move to form chords, and these chords actually create vibrations in the guitar that then they're sent on a cord to an electrical device that amplifies these, and everybody's here, and you know, my head just goes nuts with this stuff.
Are you a standard tuning kind of a guy, or do you like to play about with tunings?
I like standard tuning, but this whole album, this double album that I just am finishing up, almost all of it's in different tunings.
So, what's coming up next? You've just said you're recording a double album and other things. Is that as you, or is that with one of the bands?
That's as me. And then we're also finishing up basics for the next Magus record. And I've got a project, which is a book project with a vinyl that goes with it called Weird Way. That's a story about a psychedelic folk band on tour. And it mirrors a kind of like a classic work of literature. That's all I'll say, so that people can try and figure it out on their own. But every time a song is mentioned in it, I wrote and recorded that song. So I'm having guest vocalists do the vocals for those songs.
Okay, sounds amazing.
Every band sounds a little bit different, but there's a cohesion to it as well. And then on top of that, I've been working with, are you familiar with the band Mellow Candle?
I think I know the name.
Yeah, Alison O'Donnell. They're a legendary folk rock band from the early to mid 70s. And I've been working with the vocalist and songwriter from Mellow Candle, one of the vocalists and songwriters from Mellow Candle on a new record. So that's a project we've been doing too.
So the final question, what music are you listening to at the moment that people may not be aware of and should take some time to check out?
Oh, man, records are so expensive, so there's a lot of people I'd like to check out, but I don't have their records. So I fall back on, like lately I've been buying a lot of things that I haven't had in my vinyl collection. And so All Things Must Pass, I got that, and I've been obsessing over especially side 4. And I got the Nick Drake Making of 5 Leaves Left. It's an epic box set. It's so good. Flower Traveling Band I've been listening to a bunch. I listen to a lot of Nilsson and soundtrack to Phantom of the Paradise. Roy Harper always, Stormcock is always on the constant playlist. I've been really trying to work with him, but I think he's like pretty much out of the scene. But I've been trying. I've been sending letters and stuff to no avail so far.
For anyone wishing to find out more about Greg Weeks, you are on Instagram and Bandcamp. So Instagram for a little bit of background occasionally, and Bandcamp for all the new releases. If the Sun Dies by Greg Weeks is out now on the Language of Stone label, physically via Bandcamp, and can be found on all streaming platforms.
Distributed through Revolver, so it should be at your local record store, and if it's not, ask them to stock it.
Fantastic. Greg, it's been a pleasure chatting with you. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much.